here today and recording this. So what are we doing here today? Today is our 4th EDC town hall. Last year we had 2 of them, and this year we had at lunchtime at Spring Church. This is our 4th one. We're here at the Santa Fe Fire Station on Highway 6. And today what we want to do is bring to you transparency, accountability, and making sure you're aware of what your EDC board is trying to do. And your EDC is your Economic Development Corporation. So before we get started, we had a great meal. Thank you again to our sponsor and for our sponsors in the past that provided the meal. This one was brought to you again from Dork's Meat Market. And let me go ahead and bring up one of our board members that's going to go ahead and do an invocation and go ahead and bless the food. So if we can go ahead and bring up Mr. Blue. Thank you, sir. And here's the mic.
Appreciate it. Please stand and bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, in our hearts we plan our course, but we pray that you establish our steps. I pray that we seek you for advice. Let us not make decisions based upon what we know, but let's act upon your wisdom. Please guide us, Lord. We place this meeting in your hands. We place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us correctly. Amen.
All right. And if we can get another one of our board members up here, Mr. Wiley, and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So before we get started, I definitely want to thank our board. I just want to remind you that our EDC board is all volunteers, but they're a very well-rounded board. So starting off, we have Mr. Wiley that just stepped out of the picture right now. But Mr. Wiley, thank you so much. He's probably our most seasoned citizen and most well-rounded individual on our board. He's been part of the police department, fire marshal, and the list goes on and on and on. Thank you, Wiley, Mr. Bob Wiley, for being on the board. One of our young guys that's on the board is actually Mr. Robert Bracknell. He owns one of the local car washes here. We want to thank him. He's always willing to step up and also support our city. Another one of our hot businesses in town is Pook's Crawfish Hole. Mr. Greg Vicknier, he's actually on our board as well. Very knowledgeable about business, developing businesses, and so we're glad to have him. Also, Mr. Blue Balio, he brings a big knowledge regarding the medical field, him being a nurse, as well as having an MBA and working for Memorial Hermann. And so we're glad to have him, and he makes us well-rounded. Then we have 2 bankers, and these 2 bankers really gives us the education of transparency, accountability, more importantly, that ethics of business that we do on our board. So we want to thank Ashley Carner. She's with Amico, and she's the Chief Financial Officer with them. And then we have our Vice President, Mr. Matt Crable, and I should say Trustee Matt Crable, which also is part of Texas First Bank. He's one of their vice presidents, and also he specializes in small business administration with millions, if not billions of dollars that he manages with local businesses. And then, of course, myself as your president of the EDC and also your city councilman. So I want to go ahead and turn over the mic now to Mr. Matt Crable, our vice president, to go ahead and get the presentation started. We hope that you'll stick around, ask questions at the end. Again, we have TJ Alls with I-45 now that is going to be taking some Q&A questions at the end. So hold your questions to the end, and hopefully we can answer as many questions for you. So Mr. Matt Crable. Oh, and actually, Ashley is going to lead the way. Ladies first. Here you go, ma'am.
Perfecto.
There we go.
Thanks.
And now get out of the way.
Me too. Is this okay? Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Ashley.
Sorry.
Keep going. Good.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. My name is Ashley Carner. I'm actually the Chief Operations Officer at Amico. I wish I was the financial officer, but anyway, we appreciate your time and want to educate you about what it is that we're doing and what we have on the ballot coming up for you guys. Is the slide? There you go. Thank you. First and foremost, we want to talk about what an economic development corporation is. An EDC is a legal entity with the statutory authority to spend sales tax dollars. We are governed by many local or state government codes, and we are city chartered and governed by a city appointed board of directors. So the EDC has the appointed board of directors that and we were appointed by our city council. I think it's really important for everybody to know and understand that we as a board can make recommendations for things that change in the city. However, there is a second layer of authority, our city council, who actually approves it in the long run. That seems to be a common misconception, that people think that we're completely separate. It's a group of individuals that they did not elect and they have the capacity to spend their sales tax dollars. And that's not true. We do have city council who has the final say in that. We do serve at the pleasure of city council. City council elects us or appoints us, excuse me, and they can change any of us out at their will. Typically, we serve about 2-year terms. All of us are on at least our 2nd-year term at this point. Can you go forward, please? So EDCs have 2 types. There's either a type A or a type B, and that is that's determined by how the voters set that up. For us in particular, we were set up as a type B EDC. It's a different presentation. Sorry, we have a little technical difficulty with the presentation. We are set up as a type B EDC, and what that means is we can do projects that are economic development projects identified as public works infrastructure improvements, specifically water, wastewater expansion, drainage, and streets and roads. So type B EDCs actually have far more authority than that. However, in 20 years ago, when our city decided to have an EDC, our city decided that those were the projects that they wanted us to focus on. There is another common misconception that a lot of people think that EDC can spend money on these type of infrastructure projects that are more residential in nature. All of our projects have to focus on the business side of things. So it is designed to promote new or expanded business enterprises. At this point, I was going to introduce all of our EDC directors, but Fidencio took care of that for us, so I'll go ahead and skip that. And move right into what have we been doing this past year. This year was a year of COVID. We all know that. We've all been through that. But we held monthly meetings the last Tuesday of every month. Those are public meetings, and you are welcome to join us at any time. We would love to have you there and love to have your input. The best things that we got to do this year, although it was difficult, we worked with the city to do the Emergency Small Business Financial Assistance Grant. And what that was we were allocated some dollars from the city to be able to help our local businesses who were struggling because of COVID. It was a very long process for us. We started from scratch. We created the application, created the underwriting criteria, and determined who was going to get these funds. I don't know how many nights we worked on that. It was quite a few, but it was very rewarding to be able to give out over $187,000 to our local businesses who were impacted by COVID. In addition to that, we have been working on our 1764 project, which Matt is actually going to show you a map of and give you an idea of what's going on with that project coming up here shortly. And then lastly, we've been engaging with the Drainage District to work on the project that we're calling the Avenue P project. It's actually right over here, but we will have an impact on local businesses. About 32 businesses will be impacted if we're able to move forward with that Avenue P project. So it's something that we're really excited about and thankful that we get to work on the infrastructure for that area. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Matt so he can talk to you about what projects are active and then a little bit more about our sales tax and what we have coming up for you in May.
Good evening. As Fidencio said, my name is Matt Crable, so I'll be talking or expanding a little more on what we're currently working on. So the main project is this FM 1764 project, and this is sanitary sewer and water project. This actually started back in December of 2017. Project just got approved at City Council last month, but it has an estimated cost of $3.35 million with a 240-day turnaround. Go to the next slide and come back. So to give people an idea of where this project is taking place, so right here it kind of starts at Winston Avenue in 1764, and then it's going to run the curve and it's going to go to 646 in 1764. So it's going to be a large, massive project, water and sewer from Winston all the way to 646. Obviously, this is a major thoroughfare in the city of Santa Fe, and it's been a kind of a factor that slowed probably growth as far as businesses along this corridor because they don't have access to water and sewer. So this is a major project that is finally coming to fruition, and we should start to see dirt turn pretty soon. If you'll go back now. The other project that Ashley mentioned is the Avenue P project. So that really, you can look out the window and see it. It's on the other side of the post office. And this is an area that has incurred lots of flooding. So it impacts all the businesses right here on Highway 6, both the south and north side of Highway 6. And so we are partnering. This is a three-way collaborative effort. We partnered with the city along with Drainage District Number 1, and we have engaged with an engineering firm to start the work with mapping out that project. And so we can put that out to bid and see if that is a project that makes sense for us to move forward. So two major projects, infrastructure projects. Both of these were approved by our board and then later approved by City Council. And that has been a major focus of ours since we've been working on these projects. So as far as how the city generates its revenue, it generates it from the sales tax collection. And this gives you an idea of what that entails. So as you can see from 2016 to 2020, that's steadily increased. That's when you hear people say shop local, this is a benefit of it. It generates more sales tax dollars for the city and also for the EDC. So the purpose of the EDC is to then be able to take those dollars, put out projects that bring in more business, that spend more sales tax dollars, and we get a return on that investment for the city and for the EDC, and ultimately you as citizens get to benefit from that. So as you can see, we've accumulated 4.6 million. And average monthly intake for the EDC is about 58,000. So that gives you an idea of where those dollars come from. So as we'd mentioned on the previous slide, we have about 3.3 million of that earmarked for the 1764 project. Also, earlier this year, we took on a kind of a town hall, big discussion on how we would want to spend funds moving forward. And what our board decided is we would earmark about $600,000 additional dollars in 2021 for any projects that came to us that made sense. So again, that's a focus on infrastructure, not only with the two projects we have going, but also setting aside those funds for any projects moving forward in 2021 as well. So as far as what we're requesting is a change in our bylaws. As Ashley mentioned, Santa Fe is type B, restricted, meaning we can only spend funds on infrastructure, so water, sewer, roads, drainage, so forth. So that's the restriction. Actually, it's an uncommon structure. Most cities that set up an EDC set them up as they're not restricted to begin with. It is a hurdle in being able to fully utilize those funds to help businesses within our community. So what we're wanting to do is unrestrict those and change our bylaws that would make us unrestricted, giving us more authority to help small businesses in the community. So what you will see on the ballot, this is actually the exact language that you will see come May for our city. And the main thing and what we want to emphasize is this is not a change or an increase in your sales tax dollars. It's just allowing the EDC to use those funds in an unrestricted bias. So that is the actual ballot language you will see, and then you will be able to select either for or against that proposition. So we wanted to give you the exact language that you'll see. So when you go to polls, you'll need to look. So as Fidencio had mentioned, we've tried to do our best to reach out to the community, let the community know what the EDC board is working on. So we did 2 events last year. We've held one in March. We're here tonight, and then we're also going to be at the Business Expo that the Chamber is hosting at the end of April. So again, trying to do our part with getting the community informed about what the city and the EDC is doing. So as I'd mentioned, we met back in March and kind of had a little town hall. And this is the main point that our board wanted to emphasize to the community. And I'll read it to you because it was important. We put a lot of thought and time and effort into creating this statement in what we're trying to do. So without increasing the existing local sales and use tax rate, the EDC is proposing to expand its bylaws to allow the EDC to invest in supporting our local businesses, developing future plans, and continuing to improve our infrastructure. So as I have talked this evening, I've mentioned 2 big infrastructure projects that we're working on. We showed, as Ashley had commented, how we helped small businesses by managing the funds that the city received from the CARES Act. And one thing that we really want to do is develop future plans. Right now, the city does not have a master plan. So we're all out here kind of doing our own things. And we really want an emphasis on creating a master plan so we know how to move forward. Some people say we don't want growth. Some people say we want growth. The fact of the matter is growth is coming to Santa Fe, and we don't have a plan for it now. So by putting this master plan in place, the city, our EDC board, our school board, all these entities have a clear path, and we can all align to create a better Santa Fe. That's ultimately what we're here for. We want to create the best community for us to live, work, and play in. And so, again, that's kind of our motto and a message that I really wanted to hit home to the crowd as far as what we're trying to do here at the EDC. So as far as opportunities to learn more, as you can tell, we use a lot of acronyms specifically with the EDC. But as Ashley mentioned as well, so we meet the last Tuesday of every month. It's an open meeting. We meet at City Hall. Anyone is more than welcome to attend. And you can also look up the agenda before the meeting so you know what projects are being considered from that. We have an email as well. You can also go to the city's website. It has an EDC tab, and you can find that email right there. And if you want to really learn and dig deep into EDCs, here's a couple of websites that you can look at and study up on and understand how EDCs operate as a whole. So that is the information that I have to present for this evening, and obviously we can open it up for any questions.
Let me go ahead and ask you guys a question on this. The sales tax revenues you were showing there, those are total for the city or just total from the half cent? So
that's just the half cent for the EDC.
So when folks are looking at the last year, the 695,000, that was just what's generated from the half cent sales tax.
That is correct.
And on the funding of these projects you're doing so far, obviously they're bigger projects that are more than what you bring in. How is that taken care of? Are you issuing revenue bonds, or how is that handled? No,
so actually we've accumulated this 4.6 number. That's about what the EDC board currently holds as far as available funds.
did, we have a lot of years. No one got the same question, but just say the one.
Good job, Matt. Thank you.
So to close out quickly, I also want to make sure that the viewers are aware that, again, the number one is we're not increasing your property tax. We are not increasing your sales tax. We're not increasing your use tax. The only thing that we're asking for is to allow us to expand the use of the current sales tax dollars that we're receiving in order for us to do three things, only three things. Support our local businesses, be able to develop better future plans like a comprehensive plan, because like Matt mentioned, our last comprehensive plan was designed in 2001. And when we hired our new city manager, he was one of the only individuals out of the 34 that came to the table and brought our current comprehensive plan was a 2001. And he says, look, this is one of the main issues that I would want to focus on for your city as your new city manager, because without a plan, you're basically failing to plan. And so you plan to fail, correct? So, and then the last one is infrastructure. We know that infrastructure is our priority, right? Because like our Vice President, Matt Crable, mentioned that 1764, we can't put any businesses there unless there's water and sewer. Now, there was a utility plan that was built up with an engineers that came in, and it was between our DD1, our drainage district, our water district, and our city. That master utility plan told us that the future is 646, right? Heading north on 646, like if you're heading to Dickinson. So we know that the future also has to be is where we're going to invest dollars in that drainage, sewer, and water all the way up 646. So again, we're wanting to be good stewards of your money, but we're asking you to give us the ability to do more for our local businesses. One of the examples is most effective business EDCs in the country and in the state of Texas always have a BRE program. And a BRE program is called the Business Retention and Expansion Program. Let me repeat that. A BRE program, Business Retention and Expansion. So the first piece is business retention. And how did we learn about this? Our board was very proactive and has actually attended 3 different conferences in the state of Texas. So we went there, started asking questions and said, hey, what is effective and what should our EDC be working towards? And they all said, one of the pillars of most EDCs is having a strong BRE program. And this is what they told us. They said, if you have a strong BRE program on the business retention side, you should be focusing on your local businesses and helping them grow by 2 to 3%. If you can focus on getting them to grow to 2 to 3%, your sales tax dollars are going to go up, your businesses are going to be happy, and then you could do more for your businesses. So that's the business retention. On the business expansion, we need to be able to have a comprehensive plan available so that when a business wants to come to our city, they say, hey, let me see your comprehensive plan and see where my business fits into that plan, because you've already done a land use analysis, you've already done a comprehensive detail, and the data is there to support that type of business coming into our city. So I think we have a question.
Yeah, Jennifer Megan asked, not sure if we can ask questions here, but if you change to type A, does the EDC already have some other projects in mind, not currently as covered as a type B?
Thank you, Jennifer, for asking the question. So the answer right now is we're not trying to switch from a type B, which we currently are. We're not trying to switch to a type A, and a type A would even put more restrictions on us. So we're currently a type B, and it's restricted by one reason only. When they established it back in 2001, the board members and the council made a decision to only allow infrastructure projects only. So for instance, right now, we can't pay for anything else besides infrastructure. So a good question was brought up to our board is like, can we even do any marketing or advertising for our local businesses right now? And we cannot, because we can't use it for anything else besides infrastructure. So I guess the question, Jennifer, or the answer to your question is we're sticking right now to just allowing us to expand our bylaws to unrestrict the use as a type B.
Let's go ahead and give her kind of the premise of her question then. are there projects that you have in mind that would
fall under the
if the voters approve?
Yes, great. So let's just say our voters decide and they go to the ballot on April 19th, right through the 27th. Early voting is April 19th through the 27th. May 1st is election day. You go out, you vote, you get your neighbors to vote. It gets passed. As soon as it gets passed, it's going to give us the authorization to start planning now. That's it. So 2001, we know that currently we've already allocated $600,000 for infrastructure. That is not going to go away. But what it's going to allow us to do is now to sit down with our city manager, sit down with council, sit down with the individuals that we went out for bid to start discussing the idea of a comprehensive master plan. We went out for a bid. We finally found the 3 companies, narrowed it down to 3 companies. Now we're making a decision to select one. Then we'll bring them to the table and say, hey, what is the cost of a comprehensive plan that would help our city move forward? And then I think that's going to be the first discussion. So if there's a future project, it's going to be a comprehensive plan. The mayor's behind a comprehensive plan. City council's behind a comprehensive plan. Our city manager is behind a comprehensive plan. And we've also talked to our partners, which is the drainage district, the water district, and the fire department. And they feel that we have to have something of that nature in order to make sure that our city is built correctly. We're not saying to outgrow or to be a league city or an Alvin. We want to be Santa Fe, but build it what we want. And that would, part of a comprehensive plan is for us to come to you and you tell us what would you like to see in the future of your city. And most comprehensive plans allow for community engagement, and just like we have today, a town hall. So if you see anything here today is that you see the transparency by our board to allow town halls. I mean, we've had 4 town halls with this one, and we're still going to be part of the Chamber's Business Expo and be there as well. So we're trying to do everything possible to make you aware that we want to be good stewards of your dollars, and that's the sales tax dollars. Is there any questions in our audience that's here today? And before we close out, Ms. Stacy Baker.
Can you give us an example of what other EDCs are doing for their cities?
Absolutely. So the question that was brought up right now by our EDC director, and that's Ms. Stacy Baker. She wears several hats with our city, but one of them is she's our EDC director. She makes sure that all the paperwork is done properly, that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So thank you, Stacy. So great question, Stacy. What are other cities doing besides the BRE program? One great example is a grant program. And one of the grant programs that other cities have done in the state of Texas is imagine beautifying Highway 6 or 1764, 646. And the grant project is, why don't we do a 50-50? Let's just say right now is a good example is Tabaldo's Feed and Supply. Tabaldo's Feed and Supply just beautified and painted their store, put up new signs. Another good example is the insurance agency, Allstate. Allstate just beautified their front and they just painted as well. Also, the sign that's on 646, the veterinarian, right? The pet veterinarian shop, right? So they just put up a new sign. So imagine how many more stores or businesses in town would be willing to beautify their front landscape and put up new signs if we had a match program. So that means we could match something up to $5,000. They would put up a new sign, and then there would be a 50-50. Those are type of grant programs that other cities have done to improve the look of their city, to improve the businesses, to make them more willing to us to shop there and spend our dollars locally. So there's a lot of opportunity that we can do to support our local businesses. And again, these are best practices that we're bringing to the table. They're not perfect practices. They're best practices that we're learning from other cities and other EDCs. And again, I want to thank our board that makes time to leave their family, leave their city, to go to these EDC conferences and learn and bring back those ideas. So definitely my hats off to our EDC board. Mr. Bob Wiley has a question. Mr. Bobby Wright, Mr. Bobby Wright. another seasoned.
He's offended when you call me.
Mr. Wright, go ahead. Yes, sir.
The city and the board, the city council board did not decide to limit the EDC. The voters did. We failed twice.
Yes, sir.
I think maybe even 3 times. But we tried to do it the other way and failed. And the only way we could get it passed was to turn it back to infrastructure.
And
A major opponent in this town is working against.
so what Mr. Wright is bringing up is the history of how the EDC was established and why in 2001 it was restricted. And he brought up the piece that there was one individual and one powerful business owner locally that the only way he would put his voting block behind it was to keep it as infrastructure and restricted at the time. So we were educated by the former board, and before we were part of the EDC, we did hear that from several individuals. So I think that this is a great opportunity for our city. We ask you to look at the frequently asked questions that we created. These are questions here that you may have about the EDC. You can email our city manager or our EDC director or look on our Facebook page and get this. And then finally, like our vice president said, without increasing the existing local sales and use tax rate, the EDC is proposing to expand its bylaws to allow the EDC to invest in supporting our local businesses, develop future plans, and continue to improve our infrastructure. So again, thank you for everyone that's watching. Thank you again for TJ Alls. Thank you for our mayor, our city manager for being here, and also our executive director for the Santa Fe Chamber for being here as well, and our entire board. Thank you, citizens. If you have any last questions, please reach out to our board. Thank you and God bless.